U.S. President Joe Biden is set to deliver his last State of the Union address for this term as he looks towards a likely November rematch with his predecessor, former U.S. President Donald Trump. Now, this year's speech will be the third State of the Union address for Biden. Observers believe this is perhaps the biggest speech of his life. This time, Biden is ready to pitch his political campaign appealing to the voter base. According to the White House, the president will touch upon several top issues facing Americans, such as the economy and the election hot topic, of course, the migrant crisis.
You will hear the president lay out the historic achievements he has delivered on for the American people and his vision for the future. Looking at what President Biden faced when he came into office and where we are now, it is clear he's got more done in the first 3 years than most presidents have accomplished in 2 terms.
The president hopes to discuss upon the economy, infrastructure and manufacturing, reproductive rights, tougher migration rules and lower drug prices. He is likely to push to restore expanded child tax credit for low and middle income families, as well as push for action on aid to Ukraine, among other issues. But as he does so, the 81-year-old president will be closely watched, not just for his message, but for whether he can deliver it with vigor and command. And so his age will definitely be an issue Biden could address.
The president has been very clear. He's been very honest about his age. He knows that. He makes jokes about it, right? He makes jokes about his friend Jimmy Madison, right? He gets that.
The opposing party traditionally stages its own response to the speech, and this year Republicans have chosen 41-year-old Senator Katie Britt of Alabama. Many will also be waiting to see Trump's own response here. In a post on his social media account, Trump promised to provide live play-by-play commentary on Biden's speech. All right, to get us more, joining us now is Voice of America correspondent Jessica Stone, who joins us from the White House. Jessica, I want to get right to it. How do you feel President Biden is going to use tonight's speech to convince the nation he should get a second term?
Well, President Biden coming into this speech with one of the lowest approval ratings of any sitting U.S. president. In fact, a recent Economist poll shows that most Americans surveyed believe that the country is on the wrong track. Now, he's expected to talk a lot about immigration, about how tough he will be on immigration enforcement. Also, that's important because the Republicans actually sank an effort to pass immigration reform just a couple of weeks ago. So he's going to talk about that, but also about the economy, how he plans to lower costs for average Americans for health care and for education. He's also expected to call for more funding going to Taiwan, to Ukraine, and to Israel, and to drill down on this announcement that we heard just a couple of hours ago from the White House, which is that the president will order the U.S. military to construct a pier, a temporary port of sorts, to get additional aid into Gaza, to make sure it's getting to those millions of people who are not getting enough food and water and supplies at this hour.
Jessica, thanks for getting that quick roundup of possible things that Biden would be talking about. Now, guests on the speech often indicate themes that will be presented. Who's invited to sit in the First Lady's box here?
Play into the words that the president is going to deliver tonight. We're going to see a woman from Texas who had to cross state lines in order to receive an abortion. She will be mentioned in the speech in the context of abortion rights that the president says he will fight for. Also, an Alabama woman whose embryo transfer was canceled after the recent court decision in the state of Alabama that determined that embryos created through in vitro fertilization should be treated as children. So this is an indication of the type of conversation that the president hopes to have on reproductive rights, especially since the overturning of Roe v. Wade in 2022. We know from polling that abortion rights is a key issue, especially for Democrats, and so this is an effort to speak to that population. Also among the guests, a teacher whose school loans were forgiven through the president's efforts to reduce school loan debt and increase school loan forgiveness. The leader of the nation's largest auto union, who has now endorsed President Biden after he was the first U.S. president, sitting U.S. president, to march on the picket lines with auto workers and ask for a historic pay increase. And also we're going to see the Prime Minister of Sweden. Sweden just joined today the organization of NATO. That's, of course, in the context of what's going on in Russia and in Ukraine and the invasion of Ukraine by Russia.
Now, of course, Jessica, there is going to be another keen observer here. That's the former President Donald Trump. Now, the presumptive Republican nominee won't be at the speech tonight, but he's planned a response to the speech. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, he has. President Donald Trump never missing an opportunity to get more media attention on himself. He will be doing what he says, quote, is a live fact check of Biden's address on his social media site, Truth Social. But who will give the actual response from the Republican Party? Alabama Senator Katie Britt. She will actually be doing the traditional Republican response. We already know that she's going to talk about what she sees as the major cultural shifts in this country and the changes that have happened with respect to democracy and freedom. Back to President Trump, though, for a moment. He did this same sort of live tweeting, live response last year during the State of the Union address, but his comments are expected, of course, to have more impact this year as he now is the presumptive Republican nominee. We also know that he released a pre-buttal taped video on social media criticizing Biden's handling of the economy and of immigration policy. Those, of course, big issues that he's planning to run against him on. He's been hammering those on the campaign trail already. We don't expect that to change in the foreseeable future. Back to you.
All right. Thanks, Jessica. That was our Voice of America correspondent, Jessica Stone, joining us from the White House. Now, of course, we're also joined by our correspondent, Susan Tehrani, who's live from New York. Susan, of course, I wanted to just understand from you, how do you see this one going? Abortion, immigration, economy, of course, these are going to be the main thrusts. There's also expected talk on the war in Gaza. Talk to us about how do you see Biden addressing this one?
Yeah, what President Biden says is as equally important as how he says it. You know, this speech comes at a time, and
Absolutely.
not only is he the presumptive candidate, but also because there's so much talk about his old age, about his mental acuity. His own Justice Department really questioned that. So he has to exude confidence, leadership, and he has to convince the American people that he's on their side, notably when it comes to those economic achievements that he wants to talk about, because there are many Americans who just don't see it in their lives and their pocketbooks, despite what the White House says. And then, of course, it's the issue of border security and immigration, which is at top of many voters' minds. You know, he will talk about how he wants to get some kind of border bill passed, and the Republicans stonewalled it. But then you really have, you know, incidents like the killing of that nursing student, Lincoln Riley, by the illegal migrant, the assault on a 14-year-old and a 2-year-old as well by illegal migrants. These are going to really ring hollow in a lot of Americans' minds, notably the Republicans moving forward.
Susan, you brought out an important point. It's not just what he's going to say, it's also how he's going to say it, his address. Will he fumble? How clear will he be? Will there be a vigor in his tone? What kind of command will he exude while he speaks? Because that is going to be keenly observed, definitely by everyone in the audience, the entire nation, but also from the opposition, because Trump has already said he's going to offer a live play-by-play commentary. How do you think, what all do you think Trump is going to be looking for at the moment to kind of point out and bring out his points here?
Yeah, Trump is definitely going to be looking at what the president says about immigration. But, you know, again, how he says it, as you said, it's not only the opposition, but the whole country. And even America's allies and adversaries are going to be watching to see how this president delivers this speech. We are told that the president is not expected to mention the former president by name, but he will say that there is going to be now some other people my age see a different story, an American story of resentment, revenge, and retribution. Of course, he's talking about Donald Trump. He's not going to name him, but it'll be interesting to see how the former president would respond to something like that. Remember, this is a State of the Union, but it's also borderline a campaign speech for a president that's very unpopular right now.
All right, Susan, we'll let you go for now. We are going to talk to you a little later in the day once again, once the speech starts. And that was Susan Tehrani joining us from New York.